Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm Aubrey Reeves, CEO of Business and Arts. Before we begin, I'd first like to take a moment to acknowledge that while Business and Arts is a national organization with staff in many territories, I am speaking to you from Toronto. I have the honor to be a guest on the traditional lands and waters of the Petun and Wendat people, the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee Confederacies, and most recently the Mississaugas of the Credit River, as well as many other Indigenous nations, some of whose names are no longer remembered. We are grateful to have the opportunity to work, to live, and to meet on these lands. Today's session will include the latest insights from the Arts Response Tracking Survey, also known as ARTS. This project is a partnership between Business and Arts, the National Arts Centre, and Nanos Research, with the support from Irfan Raji and Camdo. The project began in 2020, and through quarterly surveys of over 1,000 Canadian culture goers, our aim has been to provide the arts sector with data and analysis to inform your decision-making to be more adaptable and responsive to the ever-changing landscape. This edition of the survey was in the field in late December and early January. The full arts report is now available in both English and French on our website. And now to some housekeeping. We're very happy to have ASL interpretation for today's session. Auto-generated English and French captions can also be turned on. Only the presenters will have our microphones on today, so please submit your questions in the Q&A box and vote for the ones you think are most relevant. The session is scheduled for 1 hour and 15 minutes to give us ample time for questions. And finally, the speaker series is made possible through the generous support of our long-term presenting partner, Power Corporation of Canada, as well as our new supporting partner, Arts Consulting Group. I'm so pleased to have Dr. Paul Genet, Senior Vice President of Power Corporation, here with us today to help us kick off the session. So welcome, Paul.
Thanks, Aubrey. Un grand merci et bonjour à tous et à toutes. C'est un énorme plaisir pour moi d'être ici avec vous autres. And I want to underscore it's a privilege for us at Power Corporation to be able to support the Business for the Arts Speakers Series. I think since the pandemic and during the pandemic, this has been a really important convening space that's been provided to the arts, culture, and heritage community. And I commend Aubrey and the team for consistently finding highly relevant topics that draw a great cross-section from the community. As today is an example, I think we're close to 460 guests, and very often we're a couple hundred more than that. So thank you very much, Aubrey. I want to also mention I happen to have the role of the chair of the board of the National Gallery of Canada, and I just wanted to put a plug in there. I'm in Ottawa today, and my window looks out on the gallery, and I want to encourage you all to get out to Ottawa and to visit it as soon as you can. A couple of great shows there. And I also mentioned that because I want those you folks out there to know that I'm engaged and I have a good sense of the challenges that many in the sector are facing. And I'm here with you in solidarity on these in addressing these topics. Huge pleasure for me to be able to introduce Nik Nanos, who is, of course, a chief data scientist at Nanos Research. Many of you will know Nik from past years where he has presented the results of the Arts Response Tracking Survey. But of course, Nik is also famous for being one of Canada's really AAA pollsters on politics. It covers business and also other social issues. So it's a real pleasure to be able to introduce Nik. And I just want to underscore that this is an important project sponsored by the NAC and Business for the Arts. There's a huge value to rigorous data and analysis being provided to those in the sector as we manage through these challenges and still the rebound and recovery from the pandemic. But we're also facing a period of some chaos, uncertainty, but I think also opportunity, where the arts arts sector, arts, culture, heritage have a critical role in telling the stories about Canadians. And this is a moment truly where Canadians are quite seized with our identity, our national pride, and who better to tell the stories and affirm who we are, what we are, how we're going to be better than all of you and the people with whom you work. Final note about Nik: he's worked with the Ontario Arts Council, BC Arts, and a variety of museums and the wonderful galleries across the country. So we couldn't have anyone better overseeing this series. With that, Nik, I'd love to turn it over to you.
Thanks a lot, Paul, and thanks for the kind introduction. So I'm really excited to share the latest wave of the Arts Response Tracking Survey. And you know, the thing is that when we look at our latest round of research, which I expect will be magically appearing, yes, there we go, the wonders, and I really enjoy the drama related to that. Very appropriate. You know, if we can go to the next slide, one of the things that we wanted to do, there are a number of things that we want to track or that we have tracked on a regular basis. But, you know, one of the things that we wanted to put a spotlight was on a new topic that we haven't really unpacked very much. And it had to do with first experiences and the first experiences, when they happen, what is it, a positive, negative first experiences, and the kind of the role that we play. And we kind of have that new piece of data to share with everyone. And as Aubrey said, we finished the survey in early January. And if we can go to the next slide. You know, when we look at spending, and we've been able to track spending over the last few years, and in this particular question, people can put the budget that they have. There's the mean and the median related to culture goers and the expected budget for 2025. For those of you who know, the mean is the average, the median is the midpoint, where 50% of the sample is responding in a particular way. I tend to focus on the median score myself. Because the mean, it's like everything. If someone who responds to the survey has a unusually large kind of dollar value in terms of spending on arts and culture for a year, it can impact the average. So, but I think the key takeaway here is that, you know, when we look at 2024 and 2025 and the median value, that the median spend on arts and culture events has been relatively stable on that front. And that, you know, when we look at intentions to spend, that younger people at least are reporting that they're interested in spending more compared to individuals that are middle-aged or older. I guess older is the category that I'm in, the 55 or plus. No big difference based on gender, but, you know, I think the key takeaway here is that younger people report that they intend to spend more in the coming year. But that the median stays stable over time. We'll go to the next slide. Where they spend, and, you know, in this particular case, people were asked to rank the top 3 areas where they spend, and I think this speaks to kind of the opportunities to kind of up what I'll say the share of wallet when it comes to the annual budget for leisure and entertainment. You can see travel and dining out when it comes to leisure and entertainment being kind of key factors, and dining out increasing, traveling about the same level. Subscriptions to streaming services are down a little bit. But when we look at the proportion that people assign to attending indoor performing arts venues or outdoor music festivals, that those are, for all intents and purposes, factoring the margin of accuracy for the survey, relatively stable. But I think the key takeaway here is that there is part of that leisure and entertainment wallet that has an opportunity to grow for arts and culture specifically. Next slide. You know, it's interesting when we ask people about the frequency of attending an exhibit or performance at a cultural organization for the first time, exactly 50% said that they did, and 50% said that they didn't. And, you know, my take on this is that maybe one way to think of it when we think of arts and culture goers is that there's certain proportion of arts and culture goers that are kind of want the guaranteed experience. They know what they like the same thing over and over again. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but that the other 50% are individuals that are more likely to experiment and look at attending new exhibits or performances over the course of over the year. And the thing is the good news is that for those individuals that are kind of part of that first experience group, you can see that overwhelmingly positive responses. Basically, 19 out of 20 responses were positive or somewhat positive when it comes to that first experience. It kind of speaks to the point of when you get someone in terms of attending an exhibit or performance at your organization for the first time, that it realistically is a gateway. But not only is it a gateway, it is also very highly likely and most likely to be a positive experience. Next slide. And when we think of the persona of the first timers, and those are the individuals that we've kind of profiled on the right, some interesting kind of little tidbits in terms of who they are: more likely to have completed university or graduate studies. They're more likely to be younger. Also more likely to be into travel, these first-time goers, and more likely to spend, which means that there's a particular opportunity for these first-time visitors, first-time individuals that want to have that arts and culture experience. That not only is there a financial opportunity because they're more likely to spend more, but they're also connected to travel. So it's just one of those things we're looking at, trying to understanding who those individuals are that are first timers and how they are different than the regular patrons who tend to be a little older and not spending as much. So it speaks to the kind of double opportunity in terms of first timers as a gateway, and then pretty interesting upside financially and on an engagement perspective. Next slide. Sources of information. You can see still searching online, very popular, and people could select a wide variety of different options. But not surprisingly, for those individuals that were under 35 years of age, much more likely to use social media, 74% compared to the average at 58. On the opposite side of the ledger, I won't say the flip side or the negative side, but on the opposite side of the ledger, you can see that if you're over 55 years of age, you're more into a traditional email or newsletter as a source of information. So, you can see the different touch points in order to engage the different audiences that are arts and culture goers. Next slide. This is really important because, what we're also trying to do is to get an understanding of where things might be in terms of expected frequency of attendance in the next 12 months. And, the good news is that, the upward green arrows pointing upward in the first two rows, those are the most kind of frequent ones, people that would attend at least once a month or every 2 to 3 months. And, the good news is that you can see green arrows pointing up, basically whether it's an indoor event, outdoor event, or museum and gallery. This speaks to probably an expectation in the coming year that there'll probably be a little more frequency in terms of attendance for, all three of those different types of platforms and experiences. So there you go. I think that's it. So the key takeaway, new visitors, a significant opportunity, more likely to be younger, more likely to be also interested in travel, and more likely to be very satisfied and having very positive experiences for those first-time new things that they're doing in the arts and culture sector. And I'll throw it over to you, Aubrey.
Well, thank you, Nick. Again, if anyone has technical questions about the data or methodology, Nick was happy to answer those. Please post them in the Q&A box during our discussions. So now let me introduce our panelists. First up, we have Emma Lancaster, who is a senior arts, entertainment, and event professional with a specialty in communications for not-for-profits and micro-businesses. As a 25-year industry veteran with extensive scope of responsibility and proven success in high-stress environments, she's excited about how the arts can change lives, both for audiences and artists. And Emma is currently the Director of Marketing and Communications for Vancouver's Bard on the Beach Shakespeare Festival. Previous projects have included the East Side Arts District, Vancouver International Jazz Festival, Dance House, Vancouver Latin American Cultural Center, the Push International Performing Arts Festival, Vancouver Opera, and many, many more. Second, we have Sandra O'Connor, who is the co-executive director and administrative director at the Festival TransAmériques and has devoted over 20 years to working in the cultural and community sectors, including various leadership positions and serving as a member of various boards of directors, including organizations like the Quartier des Spectacles and Le Grand Costumier. O'Connor began her career managing marketing and communications departments at several cultural organizations such as Tohu, Culture Montréal, the Foundation of Greater Montreal, and the National Theatre School of Canada. In 2020, Sandra joined the Office of Quebec's Minister of Tourism. She was in charge of sustainable development of tourism and led the development of the first action plan for responsible and sustainable tourism. And since October 2022, she has been a political advisor on mental health and homelessness for Lionel Carmel, Quebec's minister responsible for social services. And our third guest is Alyssa Fearon, who is director and curator at Dunlop Art Gallery and the RPL Film Theatre, where she oversees the strategic and artistic direction of these unique units of the Regina Public Library. Integral to her curatorial practice is a community-based approach that prioritizes historically overlooked artistic and cultural knowledge. Alyssa currently is also a director at large on the board of directors of CAMDO, the Canadian Art Museum Directors Organization, and she holds an MBA from Schulich School of Business, an MA in Art History, and a diploma in Curatorial and Visual Studies from York University. So welcome, the three of you. All right, we will get started with our first question. I'm going to zone in on that spending data. Expected spending in 2025 has remained the same since last year and has improved since 2022. This seems to be a good sign that the impact of inflation really has eased. However, we are now in a time of worry about tariffs and the effect they may have on the Canadian economy. How are each of your organizations planning for economic volatility? Who would like to jump in first? Emma, go ahead.
Sure. I'm going to start out by saying the nature of volatility is that it's volatile. That in weird and uncertain times, should we be planning for people to be traveling less, staying home more, looking for fun things to do in market? Or should we be like freaking out about everyone keeping their dollars in their wallets and not spending on anything, let alone their own entertainment and amusement? So, you know, I feel pretty strongly that all we can do is continue to do our work in a financially responsible way and to really stay on top of the news cycle so that we can jump on opportunities as they arise and respond to threats as they arise.
Yeah. Sandra? Any thoughts from the Quebec market?
Yes. Yes. Hi, hello everyone. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you and your numerous guests, over 200 today. Well, I wanted to start out by saying that despite the volatility of the moment, there's also a stronger trend portrait that we need to take into account, which is the trend of in attendance overall for Quebec that has been documented through a study run by the Chamber of Commerce of Montreal, which the link can be shared in the chat, where a trend in a decrease of attendance was observed. But it's not a trend that we observe at FTA. Au contraire, there was a 93% average attendance since 2022. And I think it has to do with what Emma is saying, is being consistent and remaining true to the mission of your organization, but also offering a diversity of affordable options for customers. We've made it a part of our mission to offer tickets that are cheaper for certain clientele, all the while maintaining other tariffs such as a generous rate for customers who would like to help out the organizations, which is, it was implemented last year, and we sold a few hundred tickets already. My second comment, though, is about the volatility that we're observing right now does have an impact on customers maybe, but certainly on our relationship to sponsors. And we will certainly need to address and build strongly on the relationships we already have to existing partnerships, and make sure that these smart partnerships are maintained throughout maybe a more difficult time over the next few months.
Okay, and Alyssa, at the Dunlop Gallery, you are slightly in a different situation.
Yes, so first off, thanks for having me. So at Dunlop, it is slightly different in the sense that it's non-ticketed. So entrance into the gallery, participation in our programs is all free, which is part of the guiding ethos of working and operating within a public library system. Dunlop Art Gallery is situated inside the Regina Public Library System. So the people that we have coming into our programs, into the gallery, they're not necessarily price sensitive in that way, where economic shifts are going to affect their attendance and participation in that way. But what I do want to highlight is that the library right now, particularly Central Library, which is the downtown branch that Dunlop is based in, it's embarking on a capital campaign. And that involves making pitches to the city to potentially increase the mill rate so that basically Regina taxpayers can help fund the possibility of this new building. So it's a tough time, I would say, to embark on a capital campaign when, like you said, tariffs are affecting people's perceptions of wanting to hang on to their dollars. And so where the gallery plays a role in that is we have really focused on increasing our local partnerships. We want to show how integral the gallery is to the local cultural ecosystem. We want to show how we play well, basically, with others locally to make sure that Regina is a place that people actually want to live and work in. And in terms of on the library side, what I have noticed is that the way that they're really highlighting ROI, return on investment, and the economic value and impact of the library in their marketing and communications pieces.
Okay, so continuing with spending trends, culture goers still rank traveling as their top expenditure on leisure and entertainment, but we also saw dining out has increased by 5%, while subscriptions to streaming services has declined by 3.4%. Possibly an indication that people are interested in going out more and having experiences. But spending on that arts-related events, both indoors and outdoors, essentially was the same. How do we see this as an opportunity, this interest in going out and having experiences for the arts? Can we tap into that? Yeah, Sandra.
Yes. It's interesting to see that there is a huge opportunity to grasp or enhance the proportion of the leisure budget of households right now. And there's many ways we can work around it. We can work around it as individual organizations, but through collective efforts as well. From an individual standpoint, later in the study, it was identified that more understanding of the offer was part of the key for people to try a new experience. So it would really have to do with adapting the message to maybe new audiences and expanding your audience through new partnerships with like-minded organizations. Let's say, for example, we work at the festival, we work with other artistic festivals throughout the year, like a Festival du Nouveau Cinéma, documentary, Nuit d'Afrique, which is a music festival. And we do cross promotions throughout the year, and in order to pollinize each other's audiences. So that's a way that we could grasp a larger part of the audience and encourage more spending. A collective effort that has been happening in Quebec is lavitrine.ca. It's a discovery platform for the whole of the cultural offer in Quebec, where you can join the newsletter and receive personalized recommendations according to your taste, but that will also take you out of your comfort zone. So almost all of the cultural organizations in Quebec take part in La Vitrine, and it makes it a wonderful tool that we've just started to discover and see the results. It's been implemented over the last few months, though, so I can't wait to see what the results are.
That sounds like a really useful tool that other markets could really adapt. Do you have any idea how large the pool of people signed up for it is?
Oh, I have no idea. I could get you the numbers though, but I know that in Quebec we created a new initiative as well on February 12th. It was inspired by a new book on August 12th, which has been very popular in Quebec over the last decades. And somebody from the arts sector suggested that we make February 12th a ticket to a Quebec Artist Show Day. And the increase in, I think La Vitrine showed an increase, like they almost doubled. On that day, they doubled the purchase of tickets that they have on a usual day. So great success for a very, it was like suggested just a few weeks before it happened, and it really spread like fire.
Wow, that's great mobilization. Emma, as our marketing veteran here, what would you want to contribute?
I feel it's really funny that as Sandra started to speak, I started to read my notes for this question over, and it's exactly what I wrote down, that sort of generosity and partnership within the sector is what is going to keep us afloat. And, save us is very strong because we don't need saving. But people who are pulling up the drawbridge and saying, no, we have to protect our audiences and we're not going to tell you about our thing and we're not going to work together. Those people are going to have a bad time in the coming days. That, I've been doing this for a long time. And one of the funny little things that I sort of say to the people I work with always is, people who go out, go out. That it is so much easier to convince a music fan to take a chance on theater, or a really passionate fan of the ballet to take a chance on a contemporary dance piece, than it is to convince somebody who never leaves the couch and is, quite homebound or is not interested in the arts at all, to take that first step. That the low-hanging fruit is working with your colleagues, being a good member of your community, being on top of what else is going on, and really sort of connecting the dots for people, that if you like this, you might also enjoy that. And here's an incentive to try it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Alyssa, Regina's a smaller center, so I would imagine the arts organizations kind of all know each other. Do you see some of that collaboration happening?
Yeah, definitely. And we've always collaborated with each other, which is one of the benefits of being in a smaller place. But what I was also going to contribute to this is in terms of thinking about entertainment experiences outside of the house. I'm also thinking about how we're allocating our resources and finding that balance between exhibitions and programs and public programming. So right now we're in a context where fees for artists, it's going up. So CARFAC is known as basically the organization that regulates how much artists are paid for professional engagements, and the fees are going up. And so I think that as we're seeing more consumers wanting to participate in activities, they want to be part of more events, and especially one-off experiences. I think that it's making me, as a director of a gallery, think more about how I'm allocating my resources and my budgets between exhibitions, which will tend to stay up for a longer period of time, like 3-4 months, as opposed to putting more money towards public programs that people can actively participate in, have those experiences that we see consumers trending more towards. And so it's just me thinking more about that balance between what I'm putting money in as I think about the next 3, 4, 5 years of programming.
Mhm. Okay, let's now turn to those first timers that Nik profiled. I think it's pretty exciting to see that it was a 50-50 split of respondents who said they attended an exhibition or performance at a cultural organization that they previously had no familiarity with, and that the overwhelming majority found it to be a positive experience. So for each of you, I'd like to learn how you are connecting with these new audiences to build a more lasting relationship. I'll start with you, Alyssa, because as you said, the Dunlop Gallery is located inside the library. So I'd imagine you get a lot of first timers that come for the library services and then find themselves drawn into the gallery. And how do you develop that relationship with those first timers?
Yeah, so I would say that it's kind of split in terms of first timers, like people who are walking into the library, you know, for the services that the library offers, like using the computer or the free internet. So Dunlop is located in Central Library, which is in downtown Regina. And in downtown Regina, there are a lot of people who are, you know, living on the margins or struggling with housing. And this is primarily the demographic coming through the doors at Central. And also Dunlop attracts that art crowd, that contemporary art crowd who is, you know, used to engaging with contemporary art and, you know, really so there's sort of two different kinds of demographics that the gallery serves. And so I think that one of the ways that we've been engaging first timers more is not so much necessarily through our exhibitions in the gallery. We kind of know who's going to come, and you know, some people are committed to showing up and coming through, and some people are less adventurous. But where we've been really getting those first timers is again through our public programs. So during the pandemic, as with most places, we went hybrid because that was the way that we had to keep our audiences engaged when the doors were closed from lockdowns. But even after the lockdown and doors opened up, we continued to have our programming hybrid. And so what we've noticed is that we've been able to kind of, I guess, maintain the audiences that we attracted during the pandemic, and people have continued to participate in our programs. So I think that and we've also made it, I think part of that is because the barriers for participating are even lower. I think that it's just one of our success stories. Since pre-pandemic, we've had an increase in our program attendance by 150%. And I say those numbers really proudly because I think it's taken a significant amount of work and commitment from my team to make that happen. And really, it's just a testament to having that reach and continuing, even though our context has changed with restrictions being lifted, it's to continue that commitment to accessibility and continuing to engage first timers in a low barrier way to our program so that they keep coming back.
Emma and Sandra, you are both at seasonal festivals. So how do you encourage a first timer from the previous year to come back the next season? Sandra?
I will, my peculiar time to shine here. I do have a sort of series of charts that I think we're going to stick in the chat.
Yeah, we can.
That are a little bit, that need a little bit of explanation to crack into. We count someone as new to file when they create an account in our system, because we have an integrated CRM for ticket sales and communications and membership. So the first time you say, I want to know more about Bard on the Beach, we flag you as new to file. So we do track what people do once they create an account and become part of our database. And a little round of what's going on in these charts here. In 2023, we remounted the most successful show we have ever done. Ontario people, it was just at the Grand Theatre in London. It was a musical version of Shakespeare's As You Like It with Beatles music. It is the closest thing to the universal solvent of Shakespeare that I have ever experienced in my life. It is one of those shows that has something for just about anybody to grab onto. The literary people are into the Shakespeare, the music people are into the music, the musical theater people are very happy. There's lots to look at. It's a good time. So we had a tremendous increase in people who were new to us in 2023. So then we are keeping track of what did they do? And, you know, obviously we lost some of them. They came to this blockbuster and they're never coming back. But the interesting thing is that some of them never booked in 2023 and then booked a ticket in 2024. So that's kind of weird. So these charts are just a little bit, you know, what happened last year. I am super excited about our plans for this year, where we're really focusing on retaining those new people. That we're building out our database to automatically flag people who are new to us, which is a new thing. They may have already attended as a guest or as a child or been brought as part of a corporate group, but the first time they appear in our database, they get flagged. So those new people get a very specific message of welcome when they book a ticket. Prior to their show, they get a slightly more remedial, for want of a better word, a pre-show email that tells them exactly where to park their car and what the timing is around having dinner and what foods are available on our site and how long the show is, in a way that the sort of traditional returning audience goes, yeah, but new people are very appreciative of. We're also trying to figure out, this is the thing I'm very excited about. We're trying to figure out how to program our scanners so that when those people come through the gate and are greeted by our awesome volunteers, they get a special like, oh, hey, welcome. We hear you've never been before. And if the person says, no, this is my first time, we're going to send them over to our audience services desk for something of welcome. We're still trying to land on whether, you know, it's a hot drink or a little pin or some kind of like item. And then when they're through their first show, they're going to get a separate post-show email to people who have attended before. Like really trying to probe what was that like for you and what was surprising to you? What did you enjoy? What would you change? In the hopes that we can get some insight about how to keep them. And then our final step on this journey to keep them will be some kind of incentive when we announce our 2026 season. That, hey, you tried it this year, why not come back? Whether it's a financial incentive or whether it's like really targeted messaging, all of that remains to be seen depending on what our offerings are and how many people this affects. But I'm really hopeful that this sort of step-by-step, multiple points of contact plan is going to go our way.
Yeah. Hospitality makes a big difference, like making people feel welcome. And it sounds like you're doing an excellent job.
And it's absolutely one of our, like as an organization, I've only been here for 2 years, so it blows me away how willing our volunteers and our staff are to like throw their arms around people and love them up once they're on site, and how responsive people are to that.
Yeah.
You know, it's everybody loves to be loved.
Sandra, do you have anything you want to add on that one?
What a wonderful segue.
Yeah.
I love what you just said about hospitality and personalized outreach, which is also what we try to do at FTA. Sorry. It has a lot to do. We unfortunately don't have an integrated CRM, but we keep a very, very specific tracking of the shows that are purchased by all of our customers the theme or the nature of the shows and the venues that they prefer. So what happens when we have a first-time buyer, we will put into our database all the data pertaining to the show that they attended. And when I said quality of the data you collect, it also has to do with the quality of the relationship you build according to the data that you have collected. So throughout the year, we will try to reach out to the first-time buyers at regular points in the year to make sure a festival, that's the challenge with festivals, is that you have to maintain a relationship to make sure that the person is engaged a year later and ready to purchase tickets. One thing we've done is that we try to engage with the first timer with a show that is likely to interest them, which is similar to what they experienced as the first time. So we send them a suggestion, we send them special offers, we send them invitation to the unveiling of programming. So we try to make them feel special in many different ways, but we have yet to develop the hospitality gift. I think it's a great idea. So I may steal it from you, Emma.
Yeah, but very much what I'm hearing from all of you about that first time person is about forging a relationship and then keeping them engaged throughout the year. So that's really key. The first timers in the report actually reported very high satisfaction, but the top suggestion for enhancing that experience was to have more advertising. With limited advertising budgets, everybody wishes their advertising budget could be higher. How do each of your organizations get the most bang for your buck to reach new audiences and old with your with advertising? Oh, Emma, do you want to jump in there?
I feel like that's a baffling answer to that question, because if they're being surveyed as a first timer, they obviously saw some advertising. So how would more advertising?
They may not have. I mean, the second was actually the way people found out about things was first through websites and second through word of mouth. So, you know, you may have heard about it as a first timer through your friends and family and didn't see any advertising.
Yeah, and I think starting to think of those human interactions as advertising and really sort of unvelcroing the sort of creepy madman advertising mindset from, like, everything is communication, and all communication is pushing towards a goal. So I think, like, you sort of need a whole organization understanding that our goal is that we want people to come, we want them to have a nice time, we want them to tell other people about this, and we want them to come back. And I think if everybody is sort of marching down the road in that direction, that all you'll have to do is sort of cover your bases in the most financially prudent way for you. That I think one of the challenges facing all of us as marketers right now is it's getting more expensive, and it's also getting more fragmented. So, you know, when I first started doing this work, you identified a media sponsor, you gave them all of your money, they put ads in their newspaper or on their radio station, and boom, done. Now there's a real understanding that people are getting their information from a lot of different sources, and this has become a much more challenging place to work professionally in terms of trying to reach all of the people in all of the places. So one of the things that we do here is that we are quite efficient with our communications planning of how can we use this asset in a bunch of different ways. That we have this video, where do we put it? Or we have this piece of content, this really nice interview with an artist or director. What do we do with it to make sure that we're touching all of the people in all of the places with it? Because it's really hard to convey nuance in a tiny little digital ad. So, you know, grabbing hold of their attention where they are becomes way more important. So spreading it around, but also being efficient with your own sort of reserves to make sure you don't go broke or bananas.
Yeah.
Trying to create 40 different things for all your 40 different channels, like really put some thought into how do I use this one thing on all these different channels.
Alyssa, I can see you nodding along. You have some thoughts to add?
Yeah, and I totally get the challenge with you know, the approach becoming more complex. And also Dunlop is a small organization. We just have limited dollars to put towards advertising. So it makes it really tough. But I have a few specific thoughts on this. So first is partnerships on advertisings. So for example, we just did a larger exhibition here at Dunlop called Black Prairies. We also did this exhibition in partnership with the Art Gallery of Southwestern Manitoba, which is a gallery located in Brandon, Manitoba. So we partnered to buy a large back cover ad, which I think alone neither of our galleries could readily do because it's very expensive, or at least it would be tough to justify doing this. But by partnering and focusing on the strategic relationships, it was something we were able to do and really generate a lot of interest in the exhibition. The second thought I have on this is relationships with media. So as part of my role, I'm constantly talking to media, and even if I'm not talking to media for a specific show or event, I'm building those relationships with them all year round, so that they know that something is happening at the gallery even before I tell them that something is happening at the gallery. I want them coming to me to say, can you speak about this regularly? So that earned media is super super helpful in terms of leveraging what's happening. And then the final point I would make is around leveraging personal contacts. So that word of mouth piece that we were talking about really is significant. And I think that recently the library maybe conducted a survey, and it affirmed just how significant it is in terms of getting people to know about what's happening. And so when we have a program or a more special exhibition happening, like guaranteed, I am sending out emails. I'm constantly talking about it. I'm posting about it because I know how valuable that word of mouth piece is, especially again for a smaller gallery with not a whole lot of advertising dollars.
Yeah, word of mouth is still king. Before I go to my final questions, just want to remind everybody in the audience, we will have time for questions from the audience. Please post them in the Q&A box. So we are in a very unique and challenging time, but one of the surprising outcomes has been that there's an incredible upswelling of Canadian pride in the past month. People are wanting to buy Canadian at the grocery store, and we're starting to see this spill over actually into the leisure and entertainment world. How can the arts tap into this sentiment to encourage Canadians to buy local art or purchase tickets to homegrown performances, or just become more active patrons of Canadian cultural institutions? Sandra, do you want to start with
Yes, maybe I can start with this one. Quebec being in a specific environment as well.
Yeah.
Well, Quebecers are strongly attached to their cultural sector, to their artists, to the milieu at large, whether it is music, theater, dance, and that attitude reflects in the way the shows that we present, in the interest that is expressed towards the show we represent. We co-produce every year about 10 shows, 8 to 10 shows, with Quebec and Canadian artists. So we already have a very strong attachment and a very strong brand attached to local and national creation that our festival goers recognize and appreciate. But also there's a challenge for us because we're also an international festival, and it's the very unique meeting of international theater and dance languages with local languages, and the conversations that it creates between artists presenters and festival goers that make the festival unique. So we have an opportunity actually to, say, appreciate your local artists, appreciate local creation, but also appreciate the very rich conversations that we can create in this time of maybe a little bit of a political turmoil at some point. We feel that FTA can be a platform of dialogue and conversations that are necessary at the moment. So that's where we're standing as an organization right now.
Emma?
In the interest of expediency, I'm just going to read my notes on this one. Because what I said, it remains to be seen for us. We're super, fortuitously, we do 4 productions a year, and one of them is a new Canadian script this year. So I'm very happy about that. We also have a sort of additional dialogue piece in one of our main stage shows that has some additional additions by a revered Canadian playwright. So that's very exciting for me. And as an organization, we've never really done the sort of stunt casting that you get with some of the Broadway shows or whatever, where it's like, oh, look, it's a big American TV star doing the Shakespeare. We've always been a very Canadian-focused company in terms of directors, actors, designers. So that's a message that, depending on where we're at, is going to be important to us this year, I think. But it remains to be seen.
Yeah,
and in 6 months, people could be like, "Oh, shut up about that." People, they're very fickle.
But what you are pointing out is you really stay in the course in terms of your focus and mission of supporting Canadian artists. Yeah, and Alyssa.
Yeah, I would co-sign that to stay the course. I mean, I think with Dunlop, I do notice that whenever we have a local artist who's exhibiting work, like for sure, there's going to be far more people coming out to that opening because they recognize that person and want to support them. At the same time, it is also important to me to find a balance to with inviting artists that are not necessarily from our community and perhaps not even from this country, to foster those exchanges and dialogues between artists who are here and artists working elsewhere. What I do think is the flip side of this patriotic moment, though, is the fact that I do predict perhaps greater pushback in terms of artists or creatives that are presenting work that are critical of Canada, of this nation.
Lost Alyssa for a second there. We'll get back to her in a second. Okay, so we are very
keep going, but I think that it's okay. Yeah,
we lost you there for a second, Alyssa. But
I'm not sure what happened. But
yeah.
Okay, sorry. What I was saying was, I think the flip side of this patriotic moment is also that there could be greater pushback as for artists that are critical of Canada, and that's also something that the gallery presents. Like, we present work by a lot of Indigenous artists, we present work by many kinds of artists, and so I really want to focus on the values of the gallery, which is freedom of expression, and supporting artists and creatives in having that at the forefront of their values. And even though we're in this really patriotic moment, I'm just careful of the flip side of that coin as well.
Yeah, I don't think it's mutually exclusive to be patriotic and also critical of one's country. You can be critical so that you can improve. And
as I have the Canadian flag right behind me for
Diana
you do.
You can be both proud of your country and your community and also want to see it improved. So okay, we're going to go to some questions from the audience. There's one here about younger audiences. What are you doing differently based on new trends and data to encourage younger, the 18-35 audience to build a relationship and affinity with your organizations? Anybody have thoughts specifically on the younger?
I think, yeah. First of all, I think, well, I will skip over all the school programs that we have. We welcome about 1,000 students from high school and CEGEPs every year. They can go through immersive programs that last many days, through very à la carte programs where they choose with their professors with their teachers what the experience will be. It can include some mediation, but it also has to do with how you curate the festival in itself. You know, my colleagues Martine Denvald and Jessimil do a wonderful work at traveling the world and seeing how creation is evolving and what languages are emerging and that resonate with a younger community, a new generation of people who can be interested in the very specific languages of dance and theater. And just in the contents that we present, there's tremendous work that can be done. After that, you have to communicate it, but through very carefully curating works that appeal and that speak to a new generation of culture goers, we can go very far, and we can create new bridges with new communities.
Yeah, so it's the relevancy of the art itself. And Alyssa?
Yeah, so I totally agree with what Sandra is saying, and we've seen that as well with certain exhibitions that we've done, like Echo Nimako, which is a Lego exhibition. We got a lot of younger audiences engaged with that. And I would also add to that, throughout the year, what we've been doing is having more mentorship programs and youth networks. Right now, we also have a program called Regina Arts Youth Network, which is for that high school age demographic. We're doing that in partnership currently with the Mackenzie Art Gallery, which is another gallery here in Regina. And it's that year-round relationship building with these younger audiences is how we're finding that they're seeing us as a place that is, where they want to engage with our programming, because we know how hard it is for galleries typically or historically to connect with that age.
A connected question about younger audiences. This person says, one thing we're seeing in visual arts and media arts is folks are leaving traditional social media, so Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly Twitter, and either joining other platforms like Blue Sky or Mastodon, or just opting out of social media in general. How do you recommend we continue to reach the younger elements of our audience when, as we saw in the report, social media is key to reaching that demographic? Emma, do you have some thoughts?
I have huge feelings about this, and it's all around like seizing the means of production on your own stories. That if you are, I mean, I think the giant tire fire that is Meta is really just illustrating that when you're at the mercy of the algo, you are at the mercy of the algo. You can have all of the plans that you want. Maybe people are going to see it, maybe they're not. So I'm partying like it's like 2005 here, and I've really been leaning into our blog as a storytelling engine for all of the other pieces. That like the long form piece goes on the blog, and the short form piece goes in a newsletter, and it goes to the organic social as well. So it's the engine that drives all the other pieces, that just retaining your own ability to tell your own story is
So the blog
really
is that
important to me.
Okay, and got a few kind of technical questions for everyone. First off, people just want to know what CRM you're using at Barn on the Beach, Emma.
Spectrix, we were very early adopters of Spectrix. I think we signed on in 2016. And it's great for us as a seasonal festival with seasonal staff. You can train someone to sell a ticket in an afternoon.
Wonderful.
It is dreamy on the ticketing side.
Yeah, and connected to that, somebody else was asking in the chat, what point of sale or scanning software? Is that the same, Spectrix?
It's the same.
Okay, it's all the same. Okay, wonderful. All right, call to actions. These are really important to get people to click and to actually go through your ticketing system. This person is asking, how frequently do you emphasize fundraising or donation call to action in your communications beyond just promoting event attendance? Do you feel there's a risk of oversaturating your audience with these messages? So the call to action to donate versus just call to action, come see what we have on offer. Alyssa, you were talking about a capital campaign earlier.
Yeah, I think that I guess it's about finding the right balance, because like as a consumer also, I do tend to get kind of fatigued with constantly seeing the same call to action over and over again. And so I think it's about being strategic about, you know, who you're asking and what, or at least being specific about what you're asking from them. So yeah, that would be my thought.
Sandra?
Yes. Well, I would say, like Alyssa, that you have to be, you have to know exactly what you're asking, who you're asking it to, and what the impact is of a donation. It has to be very explained and explicit. When it comes to the festival, though, it becomes a little hard because it becomes hard to say, like, if you give $5, it will help us do like some social organizations do. So we have to be very either create programs or say our donation campaign helps us support this project or an endeavor in particular. So I would say, you know, be very clear on the message, make sure that it detaches you or makes you unique among your other festival colleagues. And also create diverse entryways towards donation. So some people like participating in events. Others like to give once a year. Others like to offer a free ticket to someone who may not be able to afford it. So create opportunities for everyone to be able to give to the amount that they want to give and at the frequency at which they want to give. But yes, it can become overwhelming. I would try not to mix messages. When you go on sale, go on sale. When you ask for a donation, ask for a donation. If you ask for both all the time, it can become a little bit confusing for the consumer.
Yeah. I see you
I will
nodding.
I will be super nuts and boltsy here and say, if you don't have a robust shared content calendar that you work on with your development department and your artistic staff, start one now.
Yeah.
That you know, knowing what you're talking about and when you're talking about it can really sort of allay a lot of that. Oh man, we're underwater. We gotta sell tickets and we gotta ask for money. And that's where you get crazy pieces of communication that are just not focused enough to get anyone to do anything. It's confusing for people. So just make sure you have a content calendar that everybody can access so they know, ooh, they're asking for money on Thursday. Maybe we shouldn't talk about buying tickets on Friday.
Yeah. That's great. Okay, so going back to this current moment about the tariff threats, this person is asking, do you foresee opportunities to tap into more Canadians staying and traveling in Canada in response to Trump, such as working with your destination marketing organization to promote your offerings? So drawing those local and regional tourists instead of cross-border tourists. Emma, you are in Vancouver. It's not that far from the border.
My very hope is that maybe some of this nonsense will cause a bit of a refocus at our destination marketing organization locally. Tourism Vancouver or Destination Vancouver is awesome. They do an awesome job and they've done such an awesome job that their focus is winter tourism and sports rather than summer tourism and festivals, because there's actually a hotel shortage in Vancouver. So they're like, summer, they're all good. So maybe this summer they will need to pay a little bit of attention to what's going on in the summer. And I am poised.
Yeah. Though on the other hand, the Canadian dollar is very low, so it's very attractive to international travelers.
It is.
Mhm. Sandra, are you working with your destination marketing organization in Montreal?
We work with Tourisme Montréal, and I think it may create new opportunities for proximity tourism with the proximity states, and also for Ontario. There are few festivals of our kind in our sector in Montreal, in the region, in the larger region. So we may put in an extra effort to try to attract people from New York State and from Ontario as well, who may, want to experience Montreal differently this year.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. And Alyssa?
I think that so Regina is obviously a much smaller place than Montreal and Vancouver, and the nature of tourism, I think, also looks different here too. So, for example, people who would be coming in from the States, I mean, so agriculture is big here in Saskatchewan, and so a lot of people will come here for conventions, ag conventions. And so while this may not necessarily be the demographic that's coming into the gallery, what we do notice is that when we partner with the city or with other local, arts or community organizations in the downtown, particularly if there are partnerships or events happening at outdoor festivals or outdoor events, this is a way that we're able to attract new and diverse audiences that maybe we wouldn't previously be able to attract if we just expected them to walk into the gallery doors. So we partner with like the Regina Farmers Market, the Downtown Business Improvement District, and just other local organizations that maybe are kind of art world adjacent. They're not necessarily in the art world, but it just helps us to expand our reach to different audiences.
Mhm. Mhm. All right, one last question from the audience. It's kind of a big one though. So how are you balancing the delta between dreaming big for your organization and the scarcity mindset? This seems to often plague cultural organizations. When deciding how to move forward to realize a vision, what rules? Dream big or being conservative with your budget?
I mean, I don't always see them as necessarily having to be mutually exclusive, or at least I try not to think of it that way. I do prioritize deepening of relationships, making sure that there's an element of care for the artists that we're working with and supporting. And at the same time, I'm thinking strategically years ahead, like what are those one or two bigger or major projects that we want to focus our energies on, that we can say we're all proud of, without having to spread ourselves too thin. So I don't always necessarily see them as opposing values. I try to find a way to make them work together.
If you can, very quickly, Sandra or Emma, do you have any closing thoughts on
very quickly, we're leading up to our 20th edition next year. So
Wonderful.
we're having those conversations, and I think like Alyssa said, I don't think the two are, you always have to be serious about how you manage your finances, but also to be able to dream big and imagine projects. And what the exercise that we're into right now is imagining projects that are super coherent with our mission, and then bring in new partnerships to help us build new bridges. And that also will create, how do you say, a heritage, a new...
Legacy?
A legacy, thank you. A legacy for the festival. So we can't stay within the mindset of our limited budget. There are opportunities, whether they are financial or whether they are towards community-based partnerships. So we have to explore all these missions and see how they are coherent with the projects are coherent with our missions, and the more coherent they are, the more of a legacy they form, the more interest they will create and generate from eventual partners, I'm sure.
Yeah. Final thought, Emma?
I mean, I think Sandra's nailed it in that, you know, obviously you have to be cognizant of finances. You can't like drive the bus over the cliff, but there is sort of more to this than just, you know, yay, we'll do this because it's going to make us money. There's, you know, there are organizational goals that are community-based, that are accessibility-based, that are diversity-based, that, you know, are just as important, I would argue, in terms of the long-term sustainability of the thing that you do.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay, thank you, everybody. It's been a really interesting and dynamic conversation. Thank you to our panelists, Emma Lancaster, Sandra O'Connor, and Alyssa Fearon for contributing your insightful ideas and responses to the Nanos research. Thank you to Nik Nanos for your analysis, and it's always interesting. Thank you to the National Arts Center and Nanos Research for your continued partnership with us on the Arts Response Tracking Survey. And additionally, a thank you to Camdo and our friend Raji, who are both continuing their support. Finally, a big thank you to Power Corporation of Canada, our presenting partner of Business and Arts Speaker Series. And thank you also to ACG, our new supporting partner. If you'd like to learn more about any of Business and Arts programs and events, you can head to our website. It's businessandarts.org. Also, particularly, I wanted to point out that the Arts Response Tracking Survey from November drills into donation trends, and Sandra was talking a little bit about that at the earlier question. So if you want to reference that, it might be useful. Finally, you can also follow us on social media, and we wish everyone a good rest of your day. Many thanks.